Busy store for 324 unleaded. Gas get cheaper? I don't really think it did. Anyway, I'm trying to use my notes here and people keep writing me. It's okay, I'll get back to what's being written, but I'm trying to make a video and I just have a lot on my brain pad about what's happened in my life. And I really deserve to speak it out because what's happened to me based on my brothers from a young age, I don't even think that they had meant to. It's just that their conscience has caught up to them when I got out of a lot of it. And it suggests to me that instead of allowing me to get back into my thought process, my origination of self at all, that they were just trying to keep me poisoned by this syndicate of people, or at least my dad, or you know, the kidnapper that kidnapped Jacob Wetterling. That's too much of a coincidence, if you ask me. Being that it's Danny Heinrich, and I learned in the shelter being hacked, as I've said. My life had been being manipulated. My love life was manipulated by proxy to continue this stuff. So anytime I had any kind of origination of like someone new in my life, they would want to stop me from having that relationship, which would automatically suggest to the party, the girl, that they didn't want to be involved with my life, you see? And so it really hurt me to not be able to see these things or be able to reason through them at the time. But that's exactly what was happening in my life. So I'm actually trying to figure out somewhere I can just go quick and park. I guess I'll just go up here. Doesn't really matter that much. People don't like to want to see this stuff happening to a person who do care, but also people just look at it and they think right away that it's just mental health and whatnot. And it's not just mental health. It's more than that. It's always been more than that. But I'm in a situation because is this going through? Yeah, it is going through the car. Why? Ah. Yes, I'm just gonna try this. Hopefully, it's just recording on its own and not going through the car, because that would make the sound go. I think it's through the phone recording. But anyway, if the fact that Jacob Wetterling was alive in a house not only 28.5 miles from where I was moved to here, and that there was potential police involvement to not allow the uh, the area of Danny Heinrich's life to be found out about, where he would have been protected in his crimes against humanity, being that he was kidnapping kids, and there's been a syndicate of people kidnapping kids that have been being paid to do so. So that was what I think happened to me, is that there was people being paid, or it would purport to me that these people were being paid in order to make these things happen. But the fact is that I ran into a guy a long time ago. I'd say 12 years ago. No, less than that. Let's see, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago, where no, it was about 10 years ago. Either way, it doesn't really matter the time frame that I found this stuff out about it, but It's the fact that there was a guy online that was being censored left and right saying exactly where Danny Heinrich lived to get Jacob Wetterling out alive. And I was really praying that Jacob Wetterling could get out alive because I followed his story since he was kidnapped and since I had the same experiences, right? And so I really wanted Jacob Wetterling to get out alive because I had wanted to personally talk to Jacob Wetterling. I wanted to personally learn what he had went through and all that kind of stuff. But he was found dead in Annandale, Minnesota, which also isn't very far from here. And then on top of it, these things I just don't think are coincidence based on my finding out that Danny Heinrich's name, the kidnapper that tried to kidnap me, and I found out his name in that homeless shelter sitting there on that couch. And no one could understand what was going on. I tried to explain it to people, but I was also poisoned up, and I don't think that I would have the availability of words to even use at that point like I do now. And it's still hard. It's still hard now. I'm like, I did this rapping, and I did create probably about 2 to 3,000 songs of lyrical values over other people's tracks, moving differently than how I had originally had planned, because I wanted to basically learn how to speak and how to reason through my thoughts to get to my mouth, reason through my thoughts to put them on paper the right way. Because when I was writing before, it would be like, I can't get my thoughts out from A to B to C to D, so on and so forth. It'd be just scattered. And so when somebody else would read that material, they'd be like, what the heck is wrong with this guy? And so obviously it shows up as mental health, right? But it's not. What I'm suggesting though is that I believe that not only Jesse knows Danny Heinrich because of how his lifestyle is, being that he works in long-term care group or care support to get people insurance, and he also knows computer language, and so he's been able to be the hacker being introduced into my life to not only hack me but to hijack my life's value by terrorizing my life, utilizing my love life by proxy, always, to continuously control my life, where it's like the girl is supposed to love bomb me, right after love bombing me, manipulate me, get me on poisons, then psychologically affect me to where he is always there. He's always been in my relationships prior to, during, or after, or however. Not after, but during, for sure. And then there was a bunch of people that would come up against my spirit in that same fashion as designed, where I didn't have the reasonability to get through these things because of the poison. You see, that's why I did my lyrical values. That's why I was doing it. That's why I've been trying to take out my anger in that way, because what you see other people end up doing is taking the law into their own hands and going after these people. But the law isn't doing anything. You see, the law's just following the story line, but they're not actually moving to suggest to themselves that they have enough probable cause to go after these people. And the reason I believe that that's happening, and it's not happening to where I have the availability of even making a citizen's arrest, is because these people are being protected in the system, you see? And so just like before, like going back here in my work, everything was done in a timely fashion, where in Mounds View there, for an example, my mom was poisoned, then I was taken out to eat. I had a really eerie feeling about Jesse. I wanted to get back home, or I had a really eerie feeling that my mom was in trouble, right? He was like, well, let me go get cigarettes first. I'm like, dude, you can go get cigarettes on your way back home. Like, let me get back home, G. he knew. He knew what he was trying to do and make happen, and he almost did. Because by the time I got back home, my mom was gray, like literally gray in the face. The only thing that she said was call 911. Well, I was already dialing 911 or getting my phone to dial 911. And by the time that I did and get the ambulance there and she was taken into the hospital, she ended up having to get a stent put in her heart at a later date. But she didn't even remember what we were fighting about, or not fighting about, but what we were fighting for together when she had come back from the hospital, and we were fighting to get the place we were living in trouble for putting people into this place that were leaving them in blight, leaving them in dangerous conditions based on the property having holes protruding inside and outside of the place on the bottom level there. Well, I had come to find out that there was a flood in that place, and it was a backup of sewage. And so there would be parasites, there would be these problems, given the fact that these people like to have high turnover and they don't want people to ever deal with it like I wanted to deal with it. And so they're just automatically pushing me into a place to call it delusional parasitosis. Okay, I'm not diluting or having delusions of the fact of what we were living through there. It was squalor that they know that they put people into to basically make like this. So it happened in a timely fashion where all of a sudden at the gas station before going back home, and I had to call 911, and right after that, because he was in there for, if you ask me, just too long. It was just minutes too long, 5 minutes too long, or whatever. And I believe that it was wholeheartedly to give me that water that he gave me, buying me a water, and I wanted to trust him, you know? I wanted to trust him because he was my friend at that point of already long standing. So obviously I'm taking the water and drinking the water, but I'm going back into my place already feeling like I'm dealing with something myself that is unwittingly being poisoned. And then all of a sudden when my mom did go into the hospital, I went down to the living room floor. I went down just like I always go down. And then this time it was in tears because everything that was happening. So there was multiple things affecting me at that point. Not only the poison, but my mom going into the hospital, me just thinking for a short period of time before my memories were wiped, myself about how I would originally have to move given the extremities of this type of crime against me. You see? That's why I believe that there's enough probable cause. Based on all of my content online, you can't tell me that the cops can't go and collect his fucking phones, collect his computers, collect his stuff. No, what they're doing is setting me up. They're setting anyone up that can come and help me, including my own son, in exact reverse order as my best friend was killed. And so, and I don't believe that it was anything else but murder, what happened to my best friend. I believe the intent was to murder my son. And so this gets into really sticky situations because the involvement later was me screaming out to get help to get out of this place because of the protruding vermin that would be in our place. There's just no availability to live at all inside of that type of blight. It's undeniable evidence if you put it all together and you don't have the calculated conditions that are suggested here. Which is why I'm doing these videos this way now, because I don't have just the availability of doing Matthew the way Matthew would want to do Matthew. I have to move differently to do myself the way however I've been made. I don't even feel like I'm going to get any bit of Matthew back from not only being 3 or 7 or 8 or 9, 10, 11. all of these things that happened in my life leading up to meeting Jesse, having this be introduced into my life with prior thought processes of having these people being introduced into my life. Like I said, if it was any other regular relationship, these were breadcrumbs in my life where there was a neighbor lady that I was friends with that suggested to what Jesse did, and I just didn't know how to move about it, and she couldn't think to herself to think that I would be that I was she thought I was responding differently, that I didn't do the right thing there. Well, I wouldn't have known the right thing to do being poisoned up the way I had just been poisoned up. And I couldn't suggest to the fact that I had been poisoned up at that point in my life to even her, because you just don't have that in your forefront of your mind. You literally don't, like, say 20-30 minutes past of being poisoned up, it's like your short-term memory to long-term memory completely cinched, completely locked away from your own mind. Now, all you have is to focus on what's in front of you, which is what I also explained to people that I worked with at the paper mill, being poisoned up. And I said, at that point I didn't know why. I just said to this kid Mac, I said that I don't know why, but all I can do is focus on with what's in front of me and learn with what's in front of me and collect as much about my job and my duties of the job in front of me to work. And that's all I have. If I can't get sidetracked here or there, because it just takes me out of focus. So I would rather be focused in on my work and not have all these, anybody's extra, like, wondering about why I am the way I am, why I work so hard, why I focus in and I'm working hard. It's because all I could do is think of that work. If I wasn't thinking of that work to get out of the situation I was in, I thought to myself, I'm never going to get out of this. I'm never going to figure out this covert warfare over me. I'm never going to figure this out unless I get enough money and get myself into a position to where I can actually speak out about it to get help with it, you see? And so that's what I'm doing now before my life just goes kabooey again, because if I do it another way, if I try to go another way, these people are going to control my life. I'm going to end up in another homeless situation. I'll probably end up in a homeless situation as it is. I would rather, if I'm going to go either way, into the care of this syndicate over my life, stuffing me out of me, that I want to be able to at least speak out against the things that have been happening to me since I was a baby. It's unbelievable conditions. It's illegal in every single fashion, just as it's been illegal in that fashion that I wasn't able to find anybody in the city of Mounds View or the surrounding areas to come there and do a proper inspection of the place, because I know with what I got taught in carpentry school that I was on the A honor roll, and I was told by my teacher that I would make a good inspector to make sure that these places aren't being passed to go under the radar, like he was suggesting. There's a lot of these places that are being paid money under the rug, because it's a whole lot money under the rug to pass these places and allow for that high turnover, because these places make more money that way. The actual company owners or the owners of these buildings, they have multiple people living in squalor. And oftentimes, I did run into people that I wanted to get a class action lawsuit started. Well, I couldn't get that started with people not wanting to sign a thing based on them just, no, I don't want to be a part of it. We're just going to get out of here. And it's like, well, what about all the people that are being decimated that don't have the money just to stay? Well, let's get out of here. Let's up and move. They're being forced into poverty is what I'm saying. They're not available to themselves to be able to work for themselves. And when they are, they're They're having their lives be predetermined by the syndicate to stop you from working. They're going to call your employer. They're going to poison you. They're going to love bomb you and create the psychological warfare. That's literally character assassination in its finest. And it's also seen, and it used to be seen by the Supreme Courts, as crimes of conspiracy, multiple crimes of conspiracy against a targeted individual. Nowadays, you don't even have a Supreme Court. You don't even have the court system working in the fashion of that factor, because these judges are replaced by specific parties meant to totally not hear your case. So anyway, my brother was suggesting that I could come to his place at that point in Mounds View and get a job. Well, that wasn't always on his brain pad to actually help me. On his plans, it was to take me from there, love bomb me with the idea of we're going to help you, but it was never actually about help. It was to get me into the hold that I was in, where that lady was being raped every night, for crying out loud. And then you suggest to these things, and you're just looked at as you're crazy. Nothing more to see here than Matthew has a mental health issue and he's not taking his medication and he's a danger to himself and others. Go fuck yourself, system. Go fuck yourself, the doctors. Go fuck yourself, practitioners. And with what I've mentioned, with what happened to me when I was with Cheryl going into Unity Hospital, is just unfathomable. It is just unfathomable. People should not be able to fucking move this way. So they were trying to control me, and then after that, getting out, it was already immediately planned to have this stuff filled out to go into a homeless shelter. Well, I didn't have any control over this stuff. Why wouldn't I be able to? I said, why wouldn't I be able to stay here, get a job, work myself up to being you can't offer me a couple months to stay here? You're my brother. I should be able to count on you with everything that I've been going through. Not be pushed off and just, forget him. So that's what it would be. I'd be in there and I'd be going through these things. I'd be poisoned up through this syndicate, and I'd be calling people suggesting there's something happening here to me. There's something happening here that's just not right. Again, not having the mental frame to explain it this way, but me remembering now all of these things flooding back to me in my mind. So that now I can speak it out, but then I couldn't. It was never Christ-centered. It was never about the origination of Jesus Christ to be able to help me. It was never about that Christ's type of love, or a moral or ethical value of love even. Just a worldly type of love of, we want to help our own and we want to make sure that you're not hurting. We care about you. We want you to eat your vegetables and live healthy. It was never about that. It was a predetermination of theirs to continue this in my life. So in the homeless shelter, being poisoned up from 17 onward, having the same psychological treatments, not only in that relationship, but within the relationship with Emily Dodge and within the relationship with the Raeliel Baracani, I'm suggesting to exactly what the truth is. I am suggesting to the exact truth of what's been happening to me, because she did the same thing. She poisoned me up at work. On my way to work, I'd be dangling my arm down to the side thinking, I don't know if I'm going to get through this day. Every single day that I went to work. I'm lucky I did. I'm lucky I made it through. I'm lucky I didn't die and heal over at points there. And I wouldn't be able to suggest to those things in my face. Or maybe it did, but I can't get anyone to write anything for me on any of these levels of any of these jobs. And I think that if they all did get together and or just separately, they all wrote their own letters about my contents of character based on when I first started to where I left, it would have a very appealing story to the news, to anyone in the system that still is in the system that's not for this whole syndicate bullshit, or anybody at all that would suggest for a lawyer or an attorney to be able to get my stuff heard, and get out of this situation to where I can actually get help, unpack for a change in my life, and actually be able to live, because I'm 44 years old and there's never been one single age, one single time, and one single place where I've actually been able to unpack and actually live my life. Maybe unpack a little bit when I was in East River Road Apartments, but that was only for a little bit before being set up by a crooked cop that got let go of for being a crooked cop, mind you, and now owns that place. Third owner of that building, then suggesting to a neighbor of mine to help him get rid of me, and if it wasn't for this guy Jeff that lived there coming to my door, knocking on my door to allow me to know these things, having that extra breadcrumb, I would have never had figured it out. But I did figure it out because he heard it firsthand. So these things have been fraudulent as fuck. And as far as Kenny taking out insurance claims on me, because I had sent my driver's license over to my oldest brother, which suggests to me it was never for a job at being a delivery driver on the side, or being this person to go to these events and set up tables for whatever they were doing, their catering orders and whatnot. It had never anything to do with that, if you ask me. It had everything to do with getting the rest of the information that had already been hacked away by my friend, by the syndicate, working together to determine my life and take me away from ever discovering the truth and discovering the magnitude of the crime that I'm speaking out about. Without me able to discover these things, it's been very, very hard, because I would be allowing these people into my life that would continually poison me up, and in this last case it was to poison me up to death, because they did not want the truth to ever surface. Now that it has, they can't talk to me about it, and even beforehand, me suggesting, look, we can have a conversation about it, we can talk back and forth like anybody can talk in an interview, but you're not going to raise your voice to me, and you're not going to speak over me. You're not going to ask me a question and not allow me to answer. You're going to allow me to answer, and we're going to talk like human beings, going back and forth within a real conversation, or we're just not going to be able to talk at all. That was the last conversation I had with Kenny, my own brother, for crying out loud. And so they just thought that I believe that the thought process was take out these insurance claims, have an extra $300,000 to go with burial costs. Who cares if they were burn me and put me in little urns, or who fucking cares, right? They never fucking cared about me. They never fucking cared about what I was going through, because they couldn't care about what I was going through, because what I was going through was because of them. They wanted me dead. I was asking God to keep me in this last situation here after falling down, but I almost died from what I believe was a cyanide attack. And luckily, God kept me. I'm still here, still fighting. I still have this pain in my chest that goes down my arm. And yes, it's getting a little bit better finally. I can actually finally do this and massage the side of my hand without it fucking hurting really bad. And I believe it's from getting it out and sweating it out in this bath and doing what little I can do to get cilantro into my body, or anything else that can bind to these toxic metals and get them out, get them to release. Which, mind you, my pee for the longest time for a few days at least, really strongly after doing heavy cilantro, was like a rainbow on top, like a film on top of my pee. You can't suggest to me that I'm not able to see or reason with the heaviness of this type of crime when it's been happening to me all of the time. Emily Dodge was the same thing, having an affair. Cheryl was the same thing, having an affair with Jesse Lee. I don't know who Emily Dodge was with. I think it was Ryan McDonald. And I don't know. Before even going there, it was an affair with my own fucking roommate. I just was like, what are the better of two evils? I don't know. I don't know where to go in life. I don't feel like I have anybody that cares, that actually wants to support me. She made it seem like we were going to be together forever, and that we're going to depart, and we're going to do everything to make each other better. Well, that flipped in a fucking night. That's the type of psychological torture that these people have been doing. And why that is so close to home is because she's friends with Tiffany, who is my half sister or whatever, stepsister with my on my dad's side. That suggests it be too close to home. Not to mention my own brothers hiding up their relationship with my father the entire time before Kenny having a wedding. Having my dad there, like, who the fuck are you actually, G? Like, you literally want to hurt, you literally did this to hurt your mom, I said. You did this to, like, I, I can look past my dad better than my mom can. But as far as my mom's concerned, you're hurting her, man. You're doing this shit on purpose, and it ain't right. You shouldn't be able to do that. So I was being psychologically and socially murdered. I couldn't speak out from the bottom of my heart from with what was happening, because it's what the poison does to you when you're poisoned up. Just like any of these other people that have been poisoned to death in history, it's the same thing. And nothing could be further from the truth to suggest that it's all mental health. And yeah, I know my situation's sad, but people should actually be able to see it for what it is and what I'm actually suggesting to what it being, this fucking magnitude, this huge of a crime. The magnitude is at large. It bothers me that these brothers did this to me. It bothers me that my dad did what he did to us growing up. It bothers me that I couldn't ever get out of these covert attacks. It bothers me that I couldn't ever suggest to it. I'm going through something that I can't figure out and fight alone. It bothers me that people don't see Matthew for Matthew being poisoned up the way I'm suggesting I was being poisoned up. Everything in my life has been postponed, and because of the because of the poison, because I was being poisoned up. They'd have to put all these things together throughout all of the history together if they're going to really be able to see the truth, because even Jeff said it himself at one point in Mounds View that nobody likes a victim. Nobody wants to hear a victim. Yeah, well, do you think I really give a fuck when you're not even fucking available for me to fucking be a brotherly fucking type of person in my life? And now you want to do the same things with what I think is happening is it's the same things to keep his own wife gate kept from even knowing the truth or even coming around to help me out just the same way anyone else would. These men did not want to help me in my life. They never gave a shit about me in my life. And they were doing things behind my back that no one, not ever, not once, ever should be able to get away with. And so their involvement was at large. Jesse's involvement was at large, and all of these proxy-made relationships were involved at large to not only murder me in my spirit, but to actually have my mind being fully backed and pushed out, just like that short-term memory to long-term memory that goes cinch, to suggest to me when I was falling, and falling before then, mind you, and going to the sides of the road just specifically to puke, cry, and shit based on my hearing it firsthand, Jesse and Aurelia being together. I couldn't handle it again. That's the same reason at the last Christmas when I was with her and her kids, I could hardly tolerate how nice they were to me, because and she asked me, well, what's wrong? I said, because I don't know exactly what I said, but I did say it, because I just didn't want to tolerate having to go through what I've already gone through again, and I was really fearful of it happening again in my life before being poisoned up and not having the understanding of the shit that's going on in my life. I didn't maybe explain it to that level, but I did tell her I was being targeted, and she too was a part of the targeting. So it really hurt me, because these people have been being paid, getting cars, getting free reign to work this crime over my life. Cops don't do shit. No one suggests to do shit. My story's worth the fucking news, if you ask me. Worth more than the fucking koala bears that make the fucking news. worth more than these stupid ass whatever is on the news sometimes for their stories. My story is worth the news, but they can't allow it to go to the news because of how many people would be affected by the crimes that have been happening to me. So that's why they need to make it all mental health. That's why they need me into an institution. That's why they want me institutionalized or homeless or dead. Because they don't want me to be able to come back into my life, to be able to just be a drummer, to be able to work my mission. How about just leave me alone and let me work a job, for crying out loud? Let me to my little own space so I can work up a lyrical mission or write up a website to try and get out there and be a person like Juan or like all these people on YouTube and YouTubers that are able to actually get out there to the fashion where they're making money based on the monetization of their content, and they're able to go buy people a car, they're able to go help people, they're able to throw money up in the air and have, if you catch it, you get it. Like Big Dos or whatever his name is. I mean, I have a hard time surfacing all this stuff because it's just so harsh. It's a harsh syndicate that's being breadcrumbed all over my life. And if you aren't able to actually put these things together from point A to point B to C to D, E, F, G, H, I, J, all the way to Z, you're not going to be able to put it together in a situation that I've been placed in because I'm having a hard time doing it with my own words. If people can't see that fact, then they're just being blind to the absolute facts of me being poisoned up and what the poison does to me. But it started originally from my dad suggesting with me in my mom's belly that he was going to kick her in the stomach to get rid of me. And then this stuff just happened and continued onward from there onward. What a fucking piece of shit of a fucking man my dad is. And this is the same man that these brothers of mine want to go and protect and allow to be around not only them but their kids. Go fuck yourselves, G. Go fuck yourselves. What kind of fucking brother would suggest to that fact when they're even denying to my face what had happened growing up, when I know first fucking hand what had happened there? And same with my own sister, so it really would make a lot of sense if she would make a 3-minute video online, what she would say online, but she's dealing with her heart health. She was born with congenital heart defect. I don't blame her for not being able to speak out. But when I'm on my way down and I'm on my way into death, and it's like a death that's been like my whole mind, my whole life, trying to figure out this stuff. This is a spiritual murder of me. It's character assassination in its finest, and it's not allowing me to be able to be heard in my own voice for what's been happening to me in ways that nobody should have to go through. Not once, not ever. Thinking that their own people, their own friends, their own girlfriends, or anybody else is literally trying to stage them up in a way to kill them. Literally to take their life to where they don't have the availability of their reasoning skills inside of their mind normally in a normal defense mode against these people that are purporting about a crime happening to them. You don't have the availability to explain it because that's what the poison does. If people are so stupid to fucking not see that, get off of my content. Don't comment. Don't be here. Or be a troll. I'll just keep on removing you until hopefully I get out there enough to where if I have many trolls, I'll just let you trolls talk whatever the fuck you want to talk because you're all a bunch of fucking love bombing, gaining a trust of person to poison them up, bullshit ass narcissists, just like all these other fucking people have been in my life. So if you want to protect the covert narcissists to be able to get away with the fucking covert murder, go right ahead. If that's what suits you well, and you can look at yourself in the mirror and not see the demons inside of your own self that are very present and prevalent in people's lives these days, then go. By all means, go be a part of that syndicate. I'm just tired of it because I deserve better in my life. My sister deserved better in her life, and my mom deserved better in her life than having these people move about this way and suggesting to anything less than what's actually going on. suggesting it's all mental health. Go fuck yourselves. They feared me. They feared me with how I learned to walk. When I learned to walk, they feared me when I was about 7 years old or 8 years old, or they also feared me when I was about 9, asking them, "What did you guys do to me when you had those girls over? What did you guys do to me?" I wanted to run away. Is what I wanted to do at as little of an age of 7 years old. I wanted to run away at 11 years old, and I was about to run away at 15. I got brought back home, and this stuff was so confusing to me right after that because I was being poisoned up right after that. I wouldn't have been able to go and fucking deal with my dad the way I wanted to deal with my dad. I wanted to go and ask him for retributions to be made, or I was gonna fuck his ass up with a baseball bat. That's exactly what I was gonna fucking do. And then after that, I was gonna run away and go and live in trains or whatever and just hopefully meet some people that actually cared about me because my family couldn't family right. They couldn't see what was happening to me. Nobody could because of how detrimental they themselves were being made. And I'm including both my sister and my mom to being at least psychologically manipulated and ruined to that fashion to not be able to see what was happening in my life that I needed help with. These guys never wanted me to get the help that I needed unless it was to purport me as being the culprit and pushing me and prodding on me and poisoning me to where I'm in a rage or I'm reaching out for love that's not there. They would utilize that rage then to say that this is his character alone. There's nothing more to see here when there's a whole story to see. That people need to actually see if they're going to see the crime against me. But I'm asking out here for help. I would really like it if I could pay for this car somehow and get, these bills caught up. I don't know how. I don't know where it could come from. I'm just hoping that somebody can see it for what it is because I need the help. And I don't need the help from being forced into a situation that it's just to say it's mental health and la-di fucking da. Push Matt off some more and make sure Matthew doesn't get to Matthew the way Matthew wants to Matthew. The math just isn't adding up in my life is what I'm saying as far as who I would otherwise be, how I would otherwise be moving. And I was a fucking killer drummer before I couldn't drum anymore. Everything has been targeted in that fashion too, not just physically, or I should say not just emotionally and psychologically, but physically with the poisons that were given to me. I would have been able to move differently in work. I wouldn't have been having that certain smell about me going through my job and purporting to people that they just didn't want me around to begin with at that point because who would? Thanks to all these people doing this stuff to me and wanting to blame it on me my entire life. But I know it from learning how not only Brian Spears had that same type of scent, but how Stan did, and how Stan mentioned it to me with me being as little as I think 9 years old or 10 years old, saying I think something happened to me, and I think your brother did something to me, is what he said. Either way, my family and I went to a specialist doctor, and they suggested that we move. If that's what you really think happened, and that's how you really think it's happened, just move. Get away. Don't allow it to happen again. Well, because he was all out of state in his brain. They moved out of state, really, but he was out of his mental state in his mind at that point, not knowing exactly what had happened to him the same way I've been. And that's a breadcrumb too. These are all breadcrumbs, and if you can't see the monstrosity of a crime in this and you only see it as mental health, then you're just blind. Anyway, I'm out of here. Peace out. Thanks for being here. I hope I can get your support. Maybe you and your influence can put together a GoFundMe for me, and you could do a whole lot more than I can because obviously my information's being hacked and hijacked and dispersed, leaving me dispersed. And then I don't have anybody's help, and I just will these guys just come and put a hole in my head then, because I've been through this enough. Literally, that's how I would feel. I've been through enough, working 36 hours straight at times just to be able to get the money together to get out of this fucking situation. To the little bit that I have, just to have it be, oh, 2 blocks away from my murder friend. Oh, thanks, friend. You're such a good friend. I'm glad we could talk about it. I even told the motherfucker I wasn't gonna fight him. I just wanted to talk to him, and he's such a fucking bitch. Sorry, but that's exactly the word I'm gonna use because he's a fucking cunt fucking bitch for doing what he's fucking done to me. His fucking ass, I could pulverize, dude. He can't fight me like a real. If you wanted to fight me, he couldn't fight me for real. Not even with me almost having a fucking heart attack. He couldn't fucking fight me without his fucking poisons, without his hacking, and whoop whoop whoop. You know, he couldn't fucking fight me. No fucking way. Anyway, I gotta do other things. Peace out. Thanks for being here.